Okay, let's unpack this situation that has really dominated headlines.
Yeah.
It forces us to look closely at, fame, power, culture, all intersecting in one of the world's biggest industries.
Yeah, definitely.
We're diving into the recent events surrounding Sean Diddy Combs, focusing specifically on the trial that's happening right now.
It's a complex legal case, absolutely, but like you said, it goes far beyond just the courtroom. Our sources really highlight that.
Right.
This whole thing brings together these really deeply personal accounts with much broader discussions about systemic issues, especially in the music business.
That's it, exactly. So for this deep dive, we've pulled together, well, quite a stack of sources. We're looking at news reports covering the courtroom testimony.
Okay.
An interview with a music executive.
Mm-hmm.
She offers some really crucial industry perspective.
That sounds interesting.
And even some of the, the online discussions debating who went to various high-profile parties over the years.
Ah, right. That's been all over the place.
So our mission here is really to cut through all the noise you've probably been seeing. We want to pull out the most important insights from this material, understand the reported facts of the trial as they're unfolding, hear the personal accounts from witnesses, and sort of place it all in that wider cultural context people are talking about.
Makes sense. Trying to see the whole picture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What do these sources really tell us about how power operates, about the culture it fosters, and accountability, or maybe the lack of it in these circles? Yeah. You've seen the headlines, no doubt, but what does this actually mean when you dig into it? Let's jump in and see what stands out.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, let's start by setting the scene. Manhattan Federal Court. Our sources confirm Sean Diddy Combs is currently on trial there.
That's right.
Jury selection wrapped up, May 7th, 2025, and the trial itself is expected to run for a while.
Yeah, the reports say somewhere between 8 and 10 weeks, so a significant amount of time.
And his legal situation is, well, it's pretty stark, isn't it?
Yeah. It really is. He's been held without bail since his arrest back in September 2024.
Wow, since September.
And the charges are incredibly serious. You've got racketeering conspiracy that basically alleges he ran like an organized criminal enterprise.
Right, the RICO type charge.
Exactly. Then 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and 2 counts of transportation for purposes of prostitution.
He's pleaded not guilty to everything.
Correct. Pleaded not guilty to all charges and reportedly turned down a plea deal.
And the potential consequences.
If he's convicted on all counts, the sources are clear he could face life in prison.
Life, okay. And the trial itself, it's focusing on claims from 4 women.
That's what the reports indicate. Cassie Ventura is obviously a key figure we've heard a lot about. Mm-hmm. And then 3 other women who are expected to testify anonymously. Jane knows.
Got it. And a quick practical note, the courtroom itself, it's federal court, so we're not seeing photos or videos, right?
Exactly. No cameras, no live streaming. That's standard for federal court. It's why all the images you see coming out are those sketch artists' drawings. That's basically our only visual insight into the proceedings themselves.
Right, okay. So let's get into the arguments. How did the prosecution kick things off in their opening statement?
Well, they started by, acknowledging his public image, presented Combs as this cultural icon, a businessman larger than life.
The image everyone knows.
Right. But they immediately said, look, there's another side, a very stark contrast.
And they talked about an inner circle.
Yeah, they claimed he had this group of employees, bodyguards, chiefs of staff, people like that, who allegedly helped cover up crimes for, get this, 20 years.
20 years, wow.
Their alleged role, according to the prosecution, was to cultivate his reputation, protect it, but also cater to his desires, including sexual ones.
So the core allegation is about exploiting power.
Absolutely. That Combs used his power, his resources, to sexually exploit multiple women, and they specified how, through threats, drugs, and violence.
And transportation across state lines.
Yes, and even internationally, allegedly, for sex acts. The prosecution really made a point to say this case is not about a celebrity's private sexual preferences. They're framing it squarely as alleged criminal conduct.
Okay. And did they mention specific evidence they plan to present?
Oh, yeah. They laid out some pretty graphic and, frankly, disturbing details. They mentioned videos of these alleged freak-offs.
Right, we've heard that term.
Which they claim were used for blackmail. showing Combs allegedly directing people who were high on ecstasy pretending to enjoy
Oh,
themselves.
it's intense.
They also referenced other videos allegedly showing him beating a woman and photos showing injuries from a recent attack, and they talked about what was found during searches.
What kind of things?
Things like guns, a med bag apparently containing drugs, lubricant, high heels. A collection of items they'll likely try to weave into their narrative.
And what about that 2016 hotel security tape? That was huge news.
A huge focus, yes. The prosecution detailed alleged actions to stop its release. They claimed Combs paid off a hotel security guard, first with just a wad of cash.
Just threw it at him, wasn't that the story?
That's what one witness later testified, yes. And then, the prosecution alleges, later, $100,000 in cash delivered in a brown paper bag via another guard.
100 grand. In a bag.
Allegedly. And that this resulted in a signed agreement basically silencing that guard.
Wow. And the allegations specific to Cassie Ventura?
They alleged Combs abused her for years, said he beat her brutally, used the phrase flinging her around like a rag doll after finding out she dated someone else. It's a really, really disturbing picture they painted right from the outset.
Okay, so that's the prosecution's case laid out.
Yeah.
How did the defense respond? Obviously a very different story.
Completely different. Their opening statement pushed back hard. They suggested witnesses might lie, essentially, to corroborate claims against Combs.
What about the payment to the security guard? How'd they explain that?
They framed it not as obstructing justice, but as an attempt to prevent bad publicity. For both Combs and Cassie, they argued, trying to manage a difficult situation privately.
And the kidnapping allegations?
They flatly denied any kidnappings occurred. They pointed out that one employee who was allegedly kidnapped had actually worked for Combs for over a decade,
Okay.
and apparently even sought reemployment later, trying to undermine that specific claim.
And the drug allegations?
They tried to contain that, suggesting it was linked only to his personal use, not part of some larger criminal enterprise, as the prosecution alleges.
And their angle on the women involved?
This was a key part of their argument. They claim the women weren't coerced but made free choices, that they were all getting something from being associated with Combs.
Implying it was transactional.
Essentially, yes. They also brought up jealousy as a motive, suggesting domestic violence incidents were driven by breaches of trust and jealousy, not just one-sided abuse.
Did they address the potential for explicit content in the trial?
They did. They preemptively mentioned that kinky sex might be discussed and basically told the jurors not to judge based on private sexual preferences, trying to separate that from the criminal allegations.
Interesting tactic.
And they painted Combs, in contrast to the prosecution's view, as this self-made man, someone who built a lawful business, gave people opportunities.
The American dream narrative.
Kind of, that people are drawn to him. And they flatly stated there was not one corrupt enterprise. So yeah, two completely opposing narratives set up right from the start for the jury.
Absolutely clear contrast. And the weight of the prosecution's case, like any trial, really hinges on the witness testimony that follows those opening statements.
Exactly. The personal accounts are crucial.
So let's turn to some of those accounts reported in the sources. Cassie Ventura, obviously central.
Described as a critical witness for the prosecution. And based on the reports around May 14th, her testimony was powerful. She accused Combs of raping her in 2018.
A direct accusation of rape.
Yes. And she also described another incident back in 2013 in Canada, where she said Combs threw her down onto a bed frame, actually cutting her eyebrow.
Ouch. Did she say why she was testifying?
She said she felt compelled to do the right thing. That was her stated motivation.
And the emotional impact on her. The sources must have covered that.
Oh, definitely. She spoke very openly about the toll, feeling immense guilt and shame, even tragically, considering ending her life at one point.
That's devastating.
She described feeling trapped, and the fear seemed multi-layered: fear for her career, fear for her family's safety. She called the whole situation horrible and disgusting.
And the videos. The alleged freak-off videos.
Yeah, she testified about her fear regarding those. Fear of looking like a slut, as she put it, if they were ever released. She emphasized she wasn't supposed to be in them, didn't want to be in them. And there was this detail about a car beating incident. Apparently, it was a blind item in the gossip columns.
Like an anonymous tip.
Yeah, and she said she lied to her own mother about it, partly out of shame, but also because she didn't want to put her mother in danger. That really highlights the pressure she felt, both public and private.
Wow. And what did she say specifically about the freak-offs themselves?
She described one instance, going to dinner after landing in New York. Combs apparently wanted to freak off, and she testified that they then did it. She lived in constant fear, she said, that he would release videos of these events.
Okay. Then there was another witness, Daniel Phillip. His name came up?
Right, Daniel Phillip, identified as the manager of a male review show in New York. His testimony was reported around May 12th.
How did he get involved?
He testified he met Ventura through his boss back in maybe 2012 or 2013. He was asked to take a specific job because, apparently, no black dancers were available at that moment.
What was the job supposed to be?
He thought he was going to do a striptease for a bachelorette party at a hotel in Gramercy Park. Standard stuff for his line of work, presumably.
But it wasn't a bachelorette party.
No. He testified that when he got to the room, Ventura greeted him alone, wearing lingerie. She asked if it was okay if it was just the two of them, which clearly surprised him.
Okay.
She reportedly told him it was her birthday, and her husband, who he later realized meant Combs wanted to do something special for her.
And then?
She asked him to rub baby oil on her, massage her, basically see where things went.
But you said Combs was involved.
This is the really disturbing part of his testimony. Phillip said Combs was actually in the room the whole time, sitting there.
What? How did he know it was Combs?
He said Combs was wearing a white robe, a bandana over his face, a baseball cap, trying to be disguised, perhaps. But Phillip testified he recognized Combs' voice when he spoke.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And what did Phillip testify happened next?
He testified that he and Ventura had sex while Combs watched. And apparently, Combs also performed a sex act himself during this time.
Watched. Okay, this is deeply unsettling.
Absolutely. Afterwards, Phillip testified Ventura gave him several $1,000s in cash.
Cash payment.
Yes. And then Combs allegedly asked Phillip if he'd like to continue seeing them. Ventura took his number and later reportedly texted him asking for an intimate photo and asking him to come back, which Phillip testified he did.
So it wasn't a one-off encounter, according to him.
Apparently not. His account is incredibly specific, painting this really vivid and, frankly, bizarre picture of the alleged dynamics.
Did he testify about anything else? Any violence?
Yes. He also testified about witnessing Combs attack Ventura at her home on another occasion.
What did he describe?
He said Ventura was on her computer, told Combs to wait a minute. Suddenly, a bottle flew past her head and hit the wall.
Whoa.
Then, he testified, Combs allegedly dragged her by her hair into the bedroom. Phillip said he could hear sounds like slapping and Ventura screaming, "I'm sorry."
That's awful.
Yeah.
How did the defense respond to his testimony?
During cross-examination, they focused on his job. They asked if his male review business prohibited prostitution, and he said yes, it did. They also asked if he helped develop the business model for that review, and he again said yes, seemingly trying to suggest some kind of hypocrisy or contradiction in his actions versus his business rules.
Trying to undermine his credibility.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay, who else? Israel Flores, the police officer.
Right. Israel Flores. He was working hotel security in L.A., but he's an LAPD officer. His testimony was also reported around May 12th.
What was the incident he testified about?
He responded to a woman in distress call at an LA hotel back in 2016. This seems to relate to that security video incident.
Okay.
He said he checked the security cameras first, saw a man pacing around but didn't see a woman initially. He recognized Combs when Combs arrived on the floor wearing only a towel.
Just a towel, okay.
Flores testified he then found Ventura in a corner of the room. She appeared scared, he said, and was covered up in a hoodie. Combs was nearby, kind of slumped over, still just in a towel and socks.
What was the confrontation about?
Ventura wanted her phone and her bag back. Combs reportedly told her, "You're not going to leave."
He tried to stop her.
According to Flores, yes. Flores said he stepped in, told Combs she's leaving if she wants to, and physically kept his foot in the doorway to prevent it from being closed. He also mentioned another man was just sitting in the bedroom, not getting involved at all.
And this is where the alleged cash offer comes in.
Yes. Flores described Combs calling him over, holding a stack of money. Flores testified, "He threw it at me," and said Combs told him, "Don't tell anyone."
Threw it at him. Did he take it?
No, Flores said he didn't take it. He couldn't remember the exact amount, but estimated its length, the thickness of the stack.
What else happened?
Flores also testified that Combs tried to grab another security guard's phone. Apparently, Combs thought he was being recorded. Flores said he had to physically intervene, grabbing Combs and pinning him. He also took a picture of property damage in the room.
So it got physical. Did
Yeah.
Ventura press charges then?
No, she reportedly left the hotel and didn't want the police called at that time.
And Combs' reaction later.
Well, we know Combs later apologized for his actions in the video, but publicly denied Ventura's underlying allegations in her lawsuit, which, as we know, was settled extremely quickly, like the day after it was filed.
Right. Did Flores say anything else relevant?
He testified that prosecutors asked him if police reports always capture every single detail, and he said no, they don't always, implying perhaps more happened than was officially documented. He also made a point to state that, in his observation during that encounter, Combs did not appear to be drunk or high.
Interesting detail. Okay, another big name who testified was Kid Cudi.
Yes, Scott Mescudi, rapper, actor. His testimony was reported around May 22nd.
What was his connection?
He testified about having a brief relationship with Cassie Ventura back in 2011. Crucially, he believed she had broken up with Combs at that time.
But she hadn't.
Well, Ventura herself had testified earlier that Combs actually set up their meeting, supposedly for them to work on music together. She said they started dating shortly after she told Combs they were broken up. But she used a burner phone to talk to Mescudi secretly.
A burner phone. So Combs found out.
According to Ventura's testimony, yes. She said Combs discovered the relationship during one of those freak-off events by finding and going through the burner phone.
Okay, so what happened to Mescudi after Combs found out?
This is where his testimony gets really alarming. He described a series of incredibly unsettling events right after Combs found out.
Like what?
First, he got a distressed phone call from Ventura. Then his home was broken into under suspicious circumstances. Security cameras moved, his dog locked in a bathroom, the dog acting jittery and scared afterwards.
That's creepy.
And then the very next day, his Porsche was destroyed. Someone threw a Molotov cocktail at it.
His car was firebombed. My God.
Yeah. He testified he was furious, obviously, and wanted to confront Combs directly, especially after realizing someone had been inside his house. But he hesitated.
Why?
He thought, I don't know who he has with him, what his intentions are. Basically, fear of escalating things with someone powerful.
Did he end up meeting with Combs?
He did. He testified they met at Soho House in Hollywood the day after the car fire.
Must have been tense.
Mescudi's description of Combs' demeanor is really striking. He said Combs looked like a Marvel supervillain and was very calm, almost detached, which Mescudi found weird and off-putting.
What did they talk about?
They discussed the relationship with Ventura. Combs reportedly told Mescudi he should have known she was his girl, but also acknowledged Ventura had told him they'd broken up. It sounds very manipulative.
Did Ventura show up?
Yeah, she eventually joined them. Mescudi testified he was upset that she had apparently gone back to Combs after everything.
And the car? Did he ask about the car?
Yes. As they were leaving, shaking hands, Mescudi said he asked Combs, "So, what are we going to do about my car?"
And Combs' response?
According to Mescudi, Combs just said, "I don't know what you're talking about."
A flat denial.
Mescudi's interpretation was immediate and clear, that he was lying.
What happened with the police investigation into the car fire?
Mescudi testified he followed up with the police multiple times, but never heard anything back about fingerprints or any leads. It just went cold.
Did Combs ever acknowledge it?
Mescudi said Combs offered some kind of general apology later on, but he never got any confirmation from police linking Combs to the incident.
How did the defense handle Mescudi on cross-examination?
They got him to acknowledge that there was no direct evidence, no fingerprints, no witnesses placing Combs or anyone connected to him near his property when the fire happened.
Okay.
Mescudi also repeated he was confused at the time, had no clue. Ventura was still involved with Combs while they were dating.
Did the defense try to blame Ventura?
It seems like it. They posed the idea that the person who played you is the same person who played Sean, essentially suggesting Ventura deceived them both. Mescudi conceded that point, responding true.
Did Mescudi know about the alleged abuse?
He testified that Ventura had told him about physical abuse from Combs, but not about sexual abuse.
Okay. These testimonies, taken together, they paint a really harrowing picture. Seems central to the prosecution's narrative of control and violence.
They certainly do. Really powerful, specific accounts.
So that covers some of the really intense trial testimony that's come out through these sources. But like we said at the start, this isn't just about the courtroom drama.
No, not at all.
It's raising these much bigger questions, right? About the culture, the whole music industry, the connections, the power dynamics.
Absolutely. And a really significant piece of context here comes from Ty Stiklorious. She's a CEO, a founder, been in the music business for decades.
What's her perspective?
She makes a really strong point. This isn't just about one guy, you know?
Yeah.
She believes the industry itself has enabled a system that has allowed certain men to operate with total impunity.
Enabled a system. That's a heavy charge.
It is. She frames this whole Diddy situation as a story about how power has operated in the music industry. And she says something quite telling. That for people who've worked in the business for a long time, well, sadly, they don't find this all that surprising. She even brings up that old, dark cliche, sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Implying it's just been normalized for too long.
Exactly. And she connects it to the idea of the casting couch, you know, offering roles for sex. But she brings it into the music world, specifically mentioning the recording studio.
So the creative spaces themselves were used for exploitation.
That's her allegation, that these places, controlled by powerful figures, were allegedly used to exploit people, and she shares her own experiences.
Oh, really? What did she say?
She talked about job interviews early in her career. 3 separate times, she said, an interview ended with the interviewer handing her a hotel key card.
Seriously? Implying
the job was hers if she slept with them. 3 times. It actually made her give up on trying to get into the business initially.
Wow, that's incredibly blatant.
And she described another incident specifically involving Combs. She was at a party he hosted on a yacht back when she was in her early 20s. She says she was lured into a room and the door was locked behind her.
Oh, no. How did she get out?
She managed to escape by shouting, making noise, and mentioning that her brother was also on the yacht. But the key thing she says about this is that this incident was no aberration. She sees it as an indicator of a pervasive culture that fosters this kind of misconduct and exploits young people, especially women, trying to break into the industry.
A pervasive culture. And have others back this up.
Since she wrote an op-ed about this, she says many women have reached out to her with similar stories, including, interestingly, women who are now in positions of power themselves.
So even successful women experience this.
Apparently so. And a common theme she heard was fear of retaliation or being forced to sign NDAs.
The non-disclosure agreements, they always come up.
She believes they play a huge role in keeping people quiet. She stated that many people, men and women, were threatened but basically told their careers would be over if they spoke out.
So they signed away their ability to talk about it.
She describes it as people signing away their truth in exchange for basic rights, like song ownership or fair pay. Sometimes it wasn't even about abuse, but just getting what they were owed professionally.
That's awful.
And she emphasizes this really crucial point about the silence that results. She says, it wasn't consent, it was survival.
Survival over consent. That's a really powerful phrase.
Yeah.
Really captures the power imbalance.
It really does.
What did she say about accountability? Did she see any when she reported things?
She said she did report abuses she witnessed over the years, but saw very few consequences for the perpetrators.
Fits the pattern.
And she points out how long it took for figures like R. Kelly and now potentially P. Diddy to face real legal challenges. She sounds genuinely bothered that people collectively have not stood up for something better. She feels strongly that we need to change that.
Does she think labels would actually drop big money-making artists over abuse claims?
When asked that directly, her answer was pretty bleak. She said, unfortunately, she has not seen proof of that, implying talent and profit often trump ethical concerns.
Okay, so that's the industry culture perspective. Now let's talk about something else that's been swirling around all this. The parties. And specifically, the lists of people who attended.
Right. This has generated a ton of online discussion and media attention. The context is, with these serious allegations, people are looking back at who was in Combs' orbit, who attended his famous parties.
Especially the ones dubbed freak-offs.
Exactly. There's speculation, even from some legal experts mentioned in the sources, that attendees or maybe even organizers of those specific types of parties could potentially face legal scrutiny down the line. It's just speculation at this point, though.
So people started compiling lists.
Yeah, our sources mention a couple of things. There are user discussions on places like Reddit, where people have tried to pool together names based on photos, news reports, social media over the years.
Yeah.
And then there's more formal reporting, like from the Evening Standard, which specifically lists people pictured or reported as attending various Diddy events, white parties, birthday bashes, New Year's Eve parties, etc.
And these lists,
Yeah.
they're long, right?
Yeah.
Spanning different industries.
Incredibly long and wide-ranging. You see names across music, obviously, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Rihanna, Drake, Snoop Dogg, Mariah Carey, Pharrell, Kanye, Cardi B, Nicki Minaj, Usher, Alicia Keys. Just tons. Then film and TV, Leonardo DiCaprio, Will Smith, Jada Pinkett Smith, Jamie Foxx, Kevin Hart, Zendaya, Oprah Winfrey, Ellen DeGeneres.
Sports figures.
Yep, Serena Williams, LeBron James, David Beckham, Floyd Mayweather.
Fashion. Politics.
Fashion names like Naomi Campbell, Kim Kardashian, Kendall and Kylie Jenner, Gigi and Bella Hadid. And politics, yeah, names like Barack and Michelle Obama, Bill and Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, Al Sharpton, Stacey Abrams, Cory Booker, Andrew Cuomo. And Donald Trump is mentioned, too.
Even royalty.
That's right. The sources mention Prince Harry, Princess Beatrice and Eugenie from the UK, Prince Albert of Monaco, others from Sweden, Jordan, Qatar. It shows a really global reach.
Are there specific examples linking these people to parties?
The Evening Standard article gives some snapshots, like Justin Bieber being mentored by Diddy early on, a photo of Aaliyah at a party in 2000 when she was 19.
Oh, wow.
Jay-Z, Beyonce, Pharrell, Kanye, Cardi B, Post Malone, all reportedly at his huge 50th birthday bash in 2019, Mariah Carey at parties in 2004, 2007, Drake, Kelly Rowland, The Weeknd at a 2014 New Year's Eve party.
Paris Hilton seemed to be a regular.
Attended many events, yeah, including that 2006 white party with Kim K. She apparently called his 50th birthday the best party ever.
And Naomi Campbell.
Known him for over 20 years, describes their relationship as like brother-sister, and even threw him a birthday party in 2022.
What about DiCaprio? He seems to pop up a lot.
Attended the 98 white party, filmed dancing at the 50th birthday. But importantly, a source close to him apparently denied he was involved in any freak-off type activities.
And LeBron James.
There's a quote attributed to him from a live stream. "Ain't no party like a Diddy party." Just shows the reputation these events had.
David Beckham. It was a weird story there.
Yeah, met Diddy at a party. Diddy apparently offered some really controversial auction prizes at an event a weekend in the Hamptons, a studio session, and, quote, "a night out. Your host will wake up on Wednesday lying beside me."
He auctioned that off.
According to the source, yes. Wayne Rooney, the soccer player, apparently won it, but his wife Colleen banned him from going.
Can't blame her. Martha Stewart was there too.
Yep, attended parties and even blogged about them, shows the crossover appeal.
And the Trump connection.
Sources mention several points of contact. Trump calling Diddy a good guy on The Apprentice, watching the U.S. Open together, attending a restaurant opening, pictured at galas, sometimes with Melania, sometimes near Naomi Campbell or Lenny Kravitz. And his daughter Tiffany attended a white party in 2009.
Okay, so these lists are floating around, but it's important how we understand them, right? Where they come from.
Absolutely crucial. The Reddit list, for example, is explicitly user-compiled. It's discussion, speculation, people gathering publicly available info. It's not official evidence.
Right.
The Evening Standard list is based on documented appearances, photos, reliable reports, but still just attendance.
And then there were names mentioned in a court filing. That seems different.
Yes, a specific Reddit comment highlighted names allegedly listed in an actual court document. That's a distinct category. Those names included Stevie J.
From Love and Hip Hop.
Yes. A rapper whose name was redacted, an R&B singer whose name was redacted, someone identified as Young Miami's cousin, Prince Harry again.
Prince Harry in a court filing. Interesting.
Also, Cassie Ventura herself, Bishop T.D. Jakes, several prominent gospel artists like the Georgia Mass Choir, Donald Lawrence, the Clark Sisters, Smokey Norfolk, and a few other individuals, Fahim Muhammad, DeForest Taylor, Jose Cruz.
That's a very specific list. Different from just party guests.
Exactly. The context of why they're named in a court filing wasn't specified in the source we saw, but it's different from just being seen at a party.
And the online discussions. People are debating what attendance means.
Oh, yeah. Big debate. Does going to a party mean you knew about or were involved in anything illegal? People try to distinguish, was it a huge white party or one of these alleged smaller, darker freak-offs or parties within parties?
Needing evidence versus just guilt by association.
Precisely. And as you mentioned, the Reddit threads contain a lot of commentary, some of it quite politically charged, about politicians on these lists, or maybe politicians not on these lists and what that might mean.
And, again, we're just reporting that this commentary exists in the sources, not validating it.
Correct. It's part of the public reaction and discussion that these sources capture. Other names get floated in commentary, too, like Ashton Kutcher, Ja Rule, French Montana. It's a lot of speculation mixed with documented facts.
So, stepping back from the individual names, what's the bigger takeaway from these lists and connections?
I think the main insight is just the sheer breadth of his network. how deeply embedded Combs apparently was across almost every sector of high society entertainment, sports, fashion, politics, royalty. It paints a picture of immense influence and connection.
And the context perhaps adds another layer to Ty Stiklorious's points about systemic issues and how power operates in those circles.
Exactly. It shows the world he moved in, the scale of his social capital, which inevitably plays into discussions about influence and potentially impunity.
Okay. And just briefly, any very recent developments mentioned?
Just one quick note from a BBC source. It mentioned that, separate from the ongoing trial, 7 new lawsuits have been filed against Sean Diddy Combs.
7 new ones. Wow.
Yeah, indicates the legal challenges are definitely continuing to mount, although our sources didn't have details on what those specific new lawsuits entail.
Right.
Just that they've been filed.
So that was quite a journey through the sources, a real deep dive.
It really was a lot to process.
We've looked at the incredibly serious charges Sean Diddy Combs is facing in this trial right now. We've heard summaries of some truly harrowing accounts from witnesses Cassie Ventura, Daniel Phillip, the security officer Israel Flores.
Yeah, really disturbing testimony reported there. And then Kid Cudi's story, how his life was reportedly turned upside down, seemingly connected to his brief relationship with Ventura.
And beyond the trial, we got that crucial perspective from music exec Ty Stiklorious, talking about a pervasive, maybe even toxic culture within the industry.
Right. And her points about the power of NDAs in enforcing silence and that perceived lack of real accountability for powerful figures. That phrase she used, survival over consent, really sticks with you.
It does. And finally, we reviewed those extensive lists, the names, the connections, all the people from different industries who attended Combs parties over the years.
Yeah.
And we touched on the complexities and the debates around what simple association might mean, if anything.
Yeah, trying to separate documented fact from speculation there is key.
So putting it all together, the sources seem to paint this picture of just deeply disturbing allegations finally coming into the light. Allegations unfolding within a system where immense power might have enabled impunity for a long time.
And where some individuals, as Stiklorious suggested, felt forced to choose survival over consent.
Yeah.
The trial is bringing forward these graphic personal testimonies, and at the same time, you see the backdrop of these extensive social connections, the party list showing just how plugged in Combs reportedly was across so many influential circles. It's quite a juxtaposition.
It really is. So given that tension, right, between the public facade, the image of huge success and nonstop celebration, and these incredibly dark allegations of abuse, control, exploitation, what does this deep dive ultimately reveal?
That's a big question, isn't it? Maybe it reveals something about the true cost of that kind of unchecked power.
Yeah.
And the immense challenges of achieving accountability, not just for one person, but within entire industries, entire social ecosystems, maybe.
And thinking about that idea again, survival over consent, how does understanding that concept maybe change how you, the listener, view the dynamics playing out in these high-stakes environments, like the music industry or celebrity culture?
Yeah, and what responsibility, if any, lies with those who are maybe just around, part of the circles, attending the events, proximate to alleged wrongdoing, but not directly participating? Does proximity carry any weight? That's definitely something to reflect on long after this trial is over.